From the creators who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and $1 Million Listing, this is World of Wonder's Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Wow Report, where we count down the top 10 topics of the week that made us go wow. I'm Fenton Bailey, co-founder of World of Wonder, joined by our Chief Creative Officer, Tom Campbell.
Hello, hello, hello.
You. And editor of the Wow Report, James St. James.
Fenton, where are you coming from? It looks very exotic.
Well, it is. I'm on a secret mission to Bogota in Colombia.
Interesting. I can't wait to hear.
Yes. If I say anything, someone will kill me.
You can't say that about Colombia.
No.
It says more about Fenton and what he does than it is about Colombia, just so you know.
Let's start with the countdown. Number 10, Tom.
Number 10.
I had one of the best nights in the theater of my life this week. The national tour of Hairspray, which is an incredible cast. It's a road cast, but it's like such a professional cast. And the heart of the entire production was our very own Nina West, who played the role that Harvey Fierstein created.
Edna Turnblad, yes.
Yes. All of gay Hollywood, except you two, were there. So many queens were there. Don't just go because of Drag Race. Go because it's one of my favorite shows of all time. It's done so well. You know, I think it came out in 2005. It won the Tony, and it is as relevant today, if not more. It is beautiful. The music, Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman, who did the music, just got a Tony this week for Some Like It Hot. And in attendance was Adam Shankman, because it's Hollywood. He directed the movie of Hairspray. Jerry Mitchell, the choreographer who did the original choreography on Broadway, was also there. He spoke. But Shangela was there. Brooklyn Heights was there. Alaska was there. Trixie was there. I went with Theron. Everywhere you went was somebody you knew and loved. And we came out at intermission, and we were all just like teary and happy. And this is really making James very sour.
I know. Why doesn't nobody ever invites me anywhere?
Theron's here, and he went with you.
Well,
fuck
Theron too for not inviting me. How dare all of you?
We were guests of Nina West.
Don't throw Nina under the truck. James is very upset right now. He doesn't get like this very often.
Tom is sitting here saying it was the best party ever. Anyone was there. There's not one. If you weren't A-list, you weren't there. So and everybody who was fabulous at World of Wonder.
It was a good room. It was a good room. It was a really good room, actually.
I think we were all surprised that we were all there on one night and that the show, sometimes you go to friends' shows and you have to think during the show what you're going to say to them afterwards. And it was none of that. I was laughing and crying. I was kind of singing along, which the people in front of me turned around at one point. So,
well, I was just going to say, I have seen Hairspray, like probably 10 times. And I've watched the movie 100 times, and I would probably be singing right along with you. And it is one of those foolproof shows that just can get you on your feet. And by the end, when it's that 20-minute,
you can't stop the beat.
You can't stop the beat. The ocean to the motion, and yeah, it's pretty. It's spectacular. So. Yes, I'm glad you all.
James, I would go back again to see it with you, but I know I'm not A enough for you. But it's at the Dolby Theater to the 21st of May. It then goes to Atlanta in beginning of June to the 4th, June 4th. It's in Omaha starting June 6th. It's in Austin, Texas starting June 13th. And then it's in Tempe, Arizona. I can't tell you how talented the cast is.
Good morning, Baltimore.
It's only it's walking distance from the WoW office, James. You can't miss it.
Yeah.
Well, I was at the WoW offices yesterday. I don't know why nobody walked with me.
James, you and I will go, but it sounds like you could spend the whole evening like, well, Todrick isn't here, Roger isn't here, Eureka isn't here.
Roger was there. And just another shout out. Yeah,
and
another shout out to Nina West, who was the heart and soul of the production. Milks every joke brilliantly. Occasionally does a Harvey Fierstein just to keep you just to land a line, but she made it her own performance. And I'm
so proud of our girls. You know, Peppermint, Jinx, Nina. I mean, everybody is hitting the Great White Way and doing their theater thing, and it's a wonderful time. It's very exciting.
Yeah. Aaron, it is so good to see you. I am so glad that James has someone else to pick on other than moi. We're going to come back to you later in the show with a surprise reveal for number 1. But let's go on now to number 9.
Number 9.
Well, I would be remiss if we did not talk about the Met Ball, the big costume gala exhibit that happens every year. I wanted to just quickly go through and give my thoughts on some of them, see what you thought. I know you were glued to your TV for the 3.5-hour special of red carpet special. I don't know if 3.5 hours of red carpet. It was a bit much.
I just say I turned it on to watch it here in Bogota on E. They have it, and I turned on the streaming, and all it was a frozen person, a freeze frame of a woman playing tennis. There was nothing else, and I kept on coming back to it. I changed the TV. That's all I got was a still of someone playing tennis.
Let me just say you didn't miss much because it was a little low wattage this year. There was not a lot of star power. The big old school stars were Nicole Kidman, J-Lo, Glenn Close, and Salma Hayek. That was as good as you got. Gaga and Rihanna were the last 2 to show up, and that was like real stars have come. I'm going to give some names of some of the big stars that Anna put on her list instead of influencers. Remember, she banished influencers. And so she invited these stars, and you tell me if you know who they are. Teyana Taylor. Yes. No?
Yes.
No, not you. No, you're going to know all of them.
Who is Teyana Taylor? Help us.
I don't know.
She's a rapper.
Okay.
Conan Gray.
We need Blake for this segment.
Yes.
No, we don't. Conan Gray. No, yes, no, somebody?
Maybe
don't know.
Pusha T, yes or no?
Nope.
Not yet.
Daniel Ricciardo.
Really look forward to knowing.
Sarah Choi. What about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, that huge star, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? Vanessa Kirby. I know the name, right? Do you know who Thames is? Thames wowed everybody. Who's Thames, Blake?
I only know her because she was the woman at the Oscars who blocked everyone's view.
Oh, right.
Oh, her. Yes. Okay. That's why people were gasping when she walked on. I think Olivia Rodrigo stole the night. I think she was best dressed.
Her hair was amazing.
Amazing in that yarn dress by Tom Brown, and
she was like Audrey Hepburn. People were saying,
yes, exactly. Janelle Monáe in that Mayor of Halloween Town from A Nightmare on Christmas or whatever night. I just very quickly, I hate Tom Brown because one time I tried to buy a Tom Brown jacket. And I had a couple $1,000 I had sold, and I called Barney's and said, the jacket that's on the mannequin, I really want it. And the guy said, really? And I said, yes. How much is it? And he said, $28,750 for a jacket. It was just like a regular white and blue jacket. Anyway, so I've had a problem with them ever since then because nobody can do that. Very quickly, Florence Pugh was PU. J-Lo, I don't know if you liked her little 80s Joan Collins hat and her bikini bra.
It was kind of a weird, like she's at the beach, but she's also going to like a royal wedding, right? It was a mix.
Exactly. That was exactly it. Okay, now, Fenton, we get to Lil Nas X. Go. Fenton?
I'm here.
What did you think of Lil Nas X on the Met Gala?
I'm sorry.
You weren't paying any attention to me at all, were you? You had flown off on your own. Are you there?
Now he's going to pretend to be frozen.
That's exactly what you're doing. I caught you not paying attention to me.
That is a lie, James St. James. How dare you? I've been waiting for you to say Lil Nas X because to me, it was all about Lil Nas X. And when I saw him, I didn't need to see anything else. And I haven't stopped looking at his picture from every single possible conceivable angle since the first Monday in May. I will be looking at it until the next first Monday in May and probably until the end of my days. I was like, what an ecstatic outfit. He looked like he'd just been dredged up from Damien Hirst's Treasures of the Wreck of the Unbelievable. It was just gorgeous, gorgeous, James.
From behind especially.
I will give him that he always swings wide. He always shoots for the stars and goes for the memorable. I love that about him. I don't. And then after the third or fourth people came is Choupette, his cat. You know, when Jared Leto.
Okay, let's do the top three. Who is the best cat? Was it Jared Leto in the full furry? Was it Doja Cat in the prosthetic cat nose? Or was it disco ball thonged Lil Nas X? Which cat was your favorite?
I will give Lil Nas X that, but I don't know if you saw
Lil Nas X.
When Doja Cat was giving interviews and they would say, so who made your album? She'd go, meow, meow, meow. And they'd say, well, are you happy to be here? And she'd be like, meow, 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 meow. Like she just meowed through every interview. I thought I gave it up to her for that.
You guys, you know how I hate to be self-promoting, right? You know that. But I have such mixed feelings about the Met Ball. And I know you do too, James. You weren't going to watch it. I saw you that day. And I feel like it takes itself too seriously. It needs some evolution more than just the toothpaste colors running up and down the stairs. And this is the self-promoting part. Like Drag Race gives you even more crazy looks. And there's a little sense of humor. I wish there could be some, I don't know, sense of humor or something to it in. That being said, I watched the whole damn thing because it's so fucking easy to watch and scroll through.
That there was a memo that went out at Vogue after the camp gala where they said no more Drag Race people because they upstage everybody else. That was I'm very serious. That is something that happened that is well known within the fashion community, that no one from Drag Race will ever be there again.
And you know what? I think that's essentially a good thing, but I have to say this about that. Karl Lagerfeld was the inspiration. I felt the designs of most people on the runway had nothing to do with Karl Lagerfeld, didn't address the aesthetic of Karl Lagerfeld, didn't do anything with it. And I was just disappointed by that.
A lot of it, is just the black and the white. And if you wear black and white, you've got it. If you've got pearls, you got it. If you got a Camilla, you got it. But I think more important thing to discuss is the fact that, he was famously homophobic, he was fatphobic, he was a racist, he was a fascist, he was a terrible person. And we've talked about separating art from the artist ad nauseum on this show, but I know that a lot of the big stars this year boycotted because of that, and because of so many of them, Gwyneth Paltrow and Tina Fey and everybody, have come out saying that it is the worst party in the world to be at. It is so annoying, as you were jammed next to everybody and everybody's just taking it's a terrible narcissistic clusterfuck of horribleness.
I know we're running over, and I'd like to have the last word, if I may. In the words of Doja Cat, meow.
All right, let's move on. Number 8.
Number 8.
Succession, of course, because we cannot go a week without mentioning Succession. I will say here and now that as good as episode whatever it was when Logan Roy passed away, I think it was episode 3, as good as that was, this week's episode of Succession, Living Plus, was the best episode in the entire franchise history. And I think one of the most genius episodes of comedy, horror, douchiness, all in one. I just want to talk about what was going on in the story. It's not so much about the characters for once. It was about this product that Waystar was launching called Living Plus. And I just crack up saying it.
It's something that Fenton would have come up with. It is so.
I think Billy might have bought one at the end of the show. He got online.
Living Plus is a retirement community that was positioned by Logan Roy before he died as turning the cruise ship experience onto dry land. And if that isn't a horrible enough idea to start with, you then think this is surely bound to failure. Plus, it's called Living Plus. And I think the slogan was live more forever. And the episode just sort of took off as Kendall embraced this idea of Living Plus and actually turned polished a turd the way a turd has never been polished before, and delivered this incredible presentation of Living Plus. Because it's like if you could live in Fox News, I think that's what Living Plus is. You are in a gated community that is sort of secure. It probably has armed guards around it. And
it's like the Villages in Central Florida is what it is.
Right. I mean, it does have resemblances to Disney's Celebration, that sort of purpose-built town.
I've been there. It is Disney Celebration. This place already exists. You also, in Disney Celebration, my fun little footnote is your curtains have to be tacked in white facing the street. There has to be such uniformity. Anyway, go on.
Absolutely. So it's sort of quiet luxury, quiet fascism. That's what it is.
Yes, quiet fascism. That's perfect.
And what he adds to this experience of knowing that everybody's going to probably be white and you're going to be completely safe is he says it's going to be fun. There's going to be so much entertainment because, we are the ultimate streamers. So again, I think if you could live in Fox News and live in Netflix as a retirement community, this idea of like walls that would be TVs beaming in unbearable amounts of media and fun. And then he delivers the kicker, which is longevity, which is the whole idea that they will super max medical procedures and have all the protocols, a sort of Goop meets kind of Elon Musk, because the kicker was that to do this presentation, well, first Kendall had wanted them to build a house with clouds above it, and that was a disaster. That wasn't going to happen. So he pivoted and managed to bring Logan back from the dead in a sort of green screen presentation. But of course, Logan didn't say exactly what Kendall wanted him to say, which was to say that profits would hockey puck and go through the roof and be exponentially enormous. So they deep faked it. And Greg, the sort of useless cousin who can't do anything right, was sort of turned all sort of fascistic and mean and just told the editor, don't give me that, just do it, figure it out, make it happen.
So wait, that's what resonated with you?
The whole
because that fascistic make it happen
it was
we heard from Fenton.
It was the evil totalitarianism that was delivered in a perfectly wrapped package, and it was the fact that actually everyone now is behaving like Kendall. Everybody stutters. Everybody's continually kind of saying the same thing twice. It's become like a weird cult. I just thought there was so many levels going on. I thought it was Shakespearean in its. What did you guys think?
I thought it was brilliant. And I think, this idea that none of the kids are serious, can be taken seriously, but you can't take Elon Musk. I think it's the new wave of moguls. It's like they're soft in the head. They've always thought outside the box, but now they're crazy.
But I think that you're right that nobody takes them seriously, and yet each episode this season we have seen Shiv step up to the plate, and nobody realizes how important she was to the deal. We saw Roman just sort of twist everything around, and he had that wonderful, and this time we see Kendall. Everyone has really stepped up to the plate this season in ways that were unexpected.
Yes, but they're as douchey and as awful and as incompetent as they ever were, but people are buying their shit. And that's what I found so chilling about this episode and the whole direction of the series.
I said, I guess $192 billion means people will start eating your shit, huh?
And that's the way I want to run the Wow Report from now on. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you go. We'll take a quick break. And when we come back, continue on with our countdown of the top 10 things that made us go, wow.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with Tom and James and Blake. We're counting down the top 10 things of the week that made us go wow. And we've reached number 7.
Number 7.
Big week for Willie Nelson. He was just inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It was announced that he would be in November at the ceremony, along with a lot of other people. I'm sure we'll talk about another time. But just prior to that, I realized they were doing a celebratory 90th birthday for Willie Nelson at the Hollywood Bowl. Everybody in music coming one at a time to sing and pay tribute to him on Saturday and Sunday night. I bought tickets for both. I invited my friend Laura for Saturday, my friend Greg for Sunday. We went. I hadn't been to the bowl, I think, since COVID. We did it all right. We took the Uber from World of Wonder. We get there. We have food. We're sitting. Out comes, Lyle Lovett, Roseanne Cash with Chris Christopherson, Beck, Nora Jones, just one after another. Owen Wilson's introducing people. Helen Mirren is introducing people. But you know what's happening during this time? The audience is smoking so much pot, so much marijuana that it became unbearable. I don't drink or smoke. I sort of can't. I sort of have used up those playing cards, but I try not to be a prude about it. I try not to. I'm not California sober or anything like that. I'm very sober and I take it very seriously. But I may have to. I've talked to my sponsor because I might have to reset my date because it was just like, and it wasn't like people doing edibles. It wasn't like cool little. It was like old gray-haired people with roaches and and as I didn't think you could smoke that much pot. Like I thought, are they smoking cigarettes and smoking? Like it was like chain smoking, and because the event was such that like it was beautifully done and shot, but like one act would come out, one would say, "I love you, Willie," maybe tell a funny story and sing a song, and they'd leave. So there was this downtime. They were taping it. I hope it's gonna be a special. There was just a little bit downtime. I thought, well, I have just become a horrible person. I no longer can stay in crowds. I can't tolerate people. And I thought, I've never even smelled a cigarette. You don't smell cigarettes in California at the bowl, but it was like the bowl was on fire. And I realized because there was no momentum, because there was no like song into song, people just had time who were drunk and high just to talk about. And people were like, "Oh my God, I can't believe we're here!" Like while the song's playing, I can't wait to tell all my friends that I was at this epic event. It's like Roseanne Cash is singing with Chris Christopherson. Shut up. Last thing I'll say is when it comes to Willie Nelson fans, they are eclectic. But there is a cowboy, kind of an urban cowboy effect of really kind of hot, skinny, hip cowboys in hats and boots. And I spent a lot of time just following them as they walked up the stairs and back down.
Was Willie Nelson there?
I would suppose if I were to have totally had to go to the hospital because of marijuana inhalation, I would have seen him at the end of both nights, but I was unable to stay. The next day, I told my friend Greg, I was like, I'm still going to go. Maybe we'll go late. Maybe I'll wear an air mask. I was like, how can I go? I have these tickets. They weren't cheap. And my friend Greg, I was like, I can't go. I cannot walk into that inferno.
I imagine it's sort of like Spicoli's van in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, where he opens the door and it's just billowing clouds come out.
And there's no shame in their game, but boy, it made
the entire bowl was hotboxed.
Yes, it was uninhabitable for me. I had to get out of there, and we got
Plus, a lot of what they're exhaling, I mean, you're breathing in what's been in their lungs. So in a post-COVID, it's not just the pot smoke. It's like
all of that was going through my head, my dear. And when we got into the Uber, I was like, we reek of pot. It wasn't in our minds, like we reeked of pot. Anyway, that's my happy birthday, Willie. Happy 90.
All right, well, let's hope that's a TV special. Then you can watch it without having to inhale. Number 6, James.
Number 6.
Number 6, I watched a really sad documentary the other day. It's called Aaron Carter, The Little Prince of Pop. And The Little Prince of Pop is what Michael Jackson used to call him. And it's on Hulu. It's weird because he just died 6 months ago. He died in November. Doesn't it seem like he's been dead a couple years?
Yeah.
To me, it's very strange that they were able to get this whole documentary made in time. It's like they had it all waiting or whatever, which is gruesome. But there's a lot of archival footage from his early days, the Aaron's Party, I Want Candy, I Beat Shaq, like all of that. That's really interesting to see. There's a lot of stuff, Blake. There's a lot on the love triangle with Hilary Duff and Lindsay Lohan. You forget that was a moment in 2000 history. That was everybody was thinking about that. There's the whole stuff with his mother stealing all the money. There's all the stuff with the Carter family reality show that was such a train wreck. I don't know if you guys remember that in like 2015, something like that. There's only a couple people that are on the show who talk about it. AJ from the Backstreet Boys. I guess the whole point of it is this poor kid just, never had a chance. He was used up and spit out by the industry in a way that is just, it seems when you're watching it, it feels more tragic because he becomes more and more tragic as the show goes on, and you see all the face tattoos and he keeps losing the weight and he goes back and forth on all the reality or on the doctors, and he keeps saying that he has a huffing problem and he has this and that, and then he has this baby and he's having abusive relationships with the girl, and he and his brother Nick have an abusive relationship, and it sort of skates past the Lou Pearlman day, we don't know what happened there, but it's and weirdly there's no mention of his sudden bisexuality. I don't know if you remember that phase, but they just skate right past that. They don't even acknowledge it, but you see so much footage of his last couple months, and it's very sad, it's very tragic. I don't know.
James, he called The Office a few times before the pandemic. He wanted to do a series, and we talked to him about doing it. But it was very crazy and hard to kind of.
Well, I remember that because I was very excited when I heard that he called. But you said that
if this film had begun production before he passed, I suspect that
Maybe
it was already in the works.
Yeah, but I do remember that you had said that it was hard to get anything concrete out of him, and that it just felt like there was nowhere to go with it. Very sad. And he was such a cute little kid, and he had so much potential, and he was so talented, and it's just it's upsetting.
Do you recommend watching it?
I do. Tom, no. Fenton, I think yes. Yeah.
James scolded me earlier this week. He thinks I'm becoming too safe, and I'm not taking enough chances and letting enough into my life. That I'm gonna be living in Living Plus soon, and I'm gonna avoid all bad things.
I just worry about the bubble that you live in. That someday it's gonna pop, and you're gonna be subjected to the real world, and you aren't gonna be able to handle it.
Well, Aaron Carter, The Little Prince of Pop, streaming on Hulu. I guess you got to strap yourself in for a gloomy ride. Here's a cheerful thing. Number 5.
Number 5.
Stonehouse. This is a series streaming actually. Well, Blake tells me here it's streaming on Roku. I didn't think it was on Roku. I had to do that finally give in and do the trial subscription to BritBox. BritBox is the British streamer with shows from ITV and BBC and what have you. Anyway, Stonehouse is this series, limited run series, telling the true story of John Stonehouse, a member of Parliament in the mid-70s who faked his own death. He went on a business trip to Miami, put his clothes and passport on the beach, went into the water for a swim, and never returned. Well, everybody thought he was dead, but in fact, he wasn't dead. He had swum out of the beach a bit further on, you see, what happened to John Stonehouse was that he became an MP and became Minister of Aviation, and promptly went on a trip to Czechoslovakia, which was behind the Iron Curtain, and had an evening that, they provided him with a translator. The translator turned out to be a sex worker. He had wild sex with the translator that was filmed,
as you do,
and played back to him. So he had to become a spy, but he was a completely useless spy. And so after paying him for many years, they just dumped him. And so suddenly he had a lifestyle he could no longer afford. And he got kicked out of the cabinet, and then blah, 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 blah. So he ended up in terrible straits, financial straits. And he thought the solution to this would be to fake his own death. He had multiple life insurance policies. And he also went to one of his constituents' funerals. A widow went to the funeral of her husband, stole the dead man's identity, and that's how he could go off to Australia with a new passport. And so on the one hand, he seemed incredibly sophisticated. On the other hand, just like a fuckwit at every single turn. And so they play this kind of as a comedy, but it's not that funny. It's kind of like really, yeah.
Was he married?
Yes, he was. He was married and had kids. I mean,
so that's the embarrassment of the sex tape. Because the only thing that would embarrass me, and maybe it's lucky because I work at World of Wonder, but the only if there were a sex tape of me, and I don't think anyone ever took a sex tape of me, but if there was, the only thing I'd be embarrassed about would be the unflattering angles. That's all I would be embarrassed by, not the act, but just like, oh no, my butt looks really flat. Anyway, I just didn't know why he'd be so ashamed of it.
Well, no, right. I suppose it did have a power, but what a terribly cruel thing to do, to leave your wife and kids.
Yeah.
And yet, haven't we all had that fantasy of just disappearing one day and starting over a new life? I think nothing would make me happier than to fake my death and run away to Australia or something like that and just end up in, the outback.
It's never too late, James. It's never too late.
Well,
James, you would miss us too much. I know you would. You'd think it's great at first, and then you'd be like...
Well, when you start hearing about some queen yelling that he wasn't invited to the Queen's Academy in Auckland.
Exactly. But I buried the headline because the person who plays John Stonehouse is Matthew McFadden from Succession.
Oh,
and he's so good. He makes the whole thing,
right? That's Tom.
And it's directed by John S. Baird, who directed the Tetris movie I was raving about.
So this is not it's not a document. It's not a docuseries. It is an actual
yes,
scripted.
It's a drama series based on a true story, and it's written by the guy who wrote A Very British Scandal about the Jeremy Thorpe scandal,
which you loved. That was your favorite movie of the year.
So in this moment, in this particular instance, the algorithm worked in your favor. It's all your favorite things were in one thing.
I definitely think the algorithm did put this together. Yeah, you got the right writer.
As we are heading into the writer's strike, and we are gonna be searching desperately for scripted series because we will have no new ones. This is one to look up.
Absolutely. Something else you should look out for, because we're going to take a quick break, is Bring Back My Girls, returning with T.S. Madison hosting to RuPaul's DragCon. Let's see, what other dates of RuPaul's DragCon? May
12th and 13th.
12th and 13th. May 12th and 13th.
Friday and Saturday.
And we have RuPaul's Drag Race season 14, seasons 3 and 4, Drag U season 2. Wow.
Which the only time I worked on set was Drag U season 2.
Wow.
I was a talent wrangler and got to work with Stacey Q and Downtown Julie Brown and Jane Weedlin.
Oh my gosh, and that will come in. Amazing. It's an epic series that will be coming to Wow Presents Plus, but come see it live at DragCon. All right. Blake, we didn't do any questions this week. I'm so sorry. I've been too excited.
I know. I do have a question. I'll probably cut it for time, so you'll have to watch it on the YouTube version. But we haven't even mentioned today is Cinco de Mayo.
What?
Yeah. Cinco de Mayo, honey.
Wait, does that mean yesterday was May the 4th be with you?
That's right.
That's an even bigger holiday to me.
I want to know, okay, it's not even really celebrated in Mexico. It's more of an American thing. The beer companies actually made it a drinking holiday back in the 80s. But I want to know what city's annual Cinco de Mayo celebration is bigger than the one in Puebla, Mexico, which is where the holiday originated.
All right. We'll have
what,
the
Mexican city or just what city in general?
What city in general? I'll give you a hint. It's American.
All right. Okay.
All right. So which American city has a bigger Cinco de Mayo celebration than the place where the festival began in the first place?
Right. Puebla, Mexico.
We'll have the answer right after the break here on the Wow Report.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with Tom, James, Blake. You had a great question for us because we're celebrating today.
Yeah, celebrating Cinco de Mayo. What city's Cinco de Mayo celebration, what American city's Cinco de Mayo celebration is bigger than the one in Puebla, Mexico, where the holiday originated? Tom.
I want to say something like New York, but I'm going to say San Antonio, Texas.
Oh, I was going to say something like Phoenix because they're all just party animal freaks at the college there.
ASU.
I'm going to go with Austin, Texas.
Good guess.
That's probably a good one.
All good guesses, but you're all wrong. It's, of course, Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
I know, right? I think LA is just a drinking city. Right?
A little detail is Michael Alig was released from jail on May 5th, and he called it Cinco de Michael. We're counting down top 10 things that made us go wow this week. We've reached number 4.
Number 4.
I'm going rogue. I told you guys I was going to talk about the Carol Burnett 90th birthday special on NBC, which you should all see. It got more viewers, like 25 over, than any show has in the history of time. It's like a huge thing. It was very fun, very warm, very lovely. But, and I'm going to tiptoe around this, but Tucker Carlson, they say that they have released the tweet, which I'm not going to quote, tiptoeing, that where he said heinous things, but nothing that surprised me that he would say. So I don't believe that the tweet that's being released as the tweet that put him under is the real story. And, he talks about enjoying watching 3 white men perform terrible acts of violence against a black man, and then questions, should he be thinking this? It's like, I thought here's the, what do they call it? Here's the hot gun. Here's the weapon. Here's the gun.
Yes.
That. And I read it and I was like, that sounds like stuff he says on air.
Well, not only is it stuff that he says on the air, and he's been saying on the air 400 times total about the replacement theory and this and that and everything like that, but I have a feeling, my theory is somebody released this text, and it's got a little bit from column A and a little bit from column B. It's got just enough for the liberals to get angry about, but it's got just enough that the right can say, well, he's not a bit, I like him for
it's
this.
Like he released it. It's like he released it. His people.
Exactly, because everyone on the right is saying, well, he said afterwards that he feels bad about it. I like him for that. And everyone on the left is saying, well, what a horrible person. Like, there's just enough for both sides to dig in, and it seems very suspicious to me.
In a Succession Living Plus world where you just make shit up as you go along, this is made up shit. This is damage control.
This is not the smoking gun. It is not.
Thank you. The smoking gun. This is a cover up. And I hope, I don't even know anymore. I hope we find out the real reason, because he had to have done something so heinous or so personally egregious.
It wasn't that, oh my God, Tucker is racist. That is not the thing that suddenly shocked everybody after 10 years on the air.
No.
I think it was something about the Murdochs.
Yeah.
I want to see it.
Yeah. All right.
So watch the Carol Burnett special.
Did you know Tucker Carlson has made a documentary? I think it's called The End of Men. And apparently it is the campest, stupidest thing you've ever seen in your life. And it features a raw egg shaman. Someone was telling me about it, and I don't want to give him a platform, but I'm going to try and watch it because it sounds redonkulous to the nth degree. All right, let's go on. Sorry, I feel like I just farted on the air or something. Let's go on to number 3.
Number 3.
I watched the creepiest, craziest documentary. It just blew my mind. It's called Bigorexia on Amazon Prime. And it's about bodybuilders who are obsessed with building body mass to an impossible degree, where they are like the Hulk. They are like, the Thing. They keep getting bigger and bigger, but they think that they're skinny and they're embarrassed of themselves. Okay. They have such body shame that they keep going to a point where they're shooting up. I mean, it's crazy. There's this one guy who's lifting weights, and he's lifting like 1,000 pounds, and his eye pops out Like there's this blood coming down his face, and the eye is like, it's just, but he's like, yeah, man, did you see that? Like he just loves it. Now, I don't like muscles. I think muscles are vulgar. I think muscles are low class. I just hate a muscle boy. So I don't know how I got sucked into this. But there are 3 people on this show that I need to talk about. One is this trans woman, okay, who's a bodybuilder, and she competed in the male category and won several national titles before she transitioned. And now she is this push me, pull me, where she needs to keep building muscle mass, but at the same time, she wants to slim down and be more womanly. But she keeps injecting male hormones on top of her female hormones and steroids so that because she doesn't know, she's addicted to it, but she can't let go, but she wants to be a better woman. That it's just really upsetting to watch her. Then there's this boy, I sent you pictures, this Russian boy named Kirill Tarishian, and he just wants big biceps. He wants to be skinny everywhere else, but he wants these big balloon Popeye biceps. And he keeps shooting something called synthol, which is an oil, into and it's terrible for you. And he's got these big black sores all over him from the synthol. But he says he doesn't want flat muscles like regular people. He wants them to be like balloons. And that's all he wants, is to have big balloons on his arms. And they keep telling him, we're going to have to amputate your arms. You've got to stop. You're going to die. We're going to take off your arms and he can't stop. He can't stop. Finally, he goes into therapy and he gets it taken out because it gets really bad.
It seems fair to say these are super extreme examples, right? Like very few people on earth.
Extreme. But then there's this other boy named Zach Ainsley, and he is so beautiful. He is so pretty. He's like a soap star, porn star, supermodel wrapped into one, okay? And he's just this blonde, this pretty little face, but he doesn't see it. He cannot understand that he is pretty, no matter how many girls throw themselves at him, no matter how much his mom says he's beautiful. He keeps pushing himself to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and he keeps entering all these contests and losing them, and it destroys him. And he keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and he loses his looks. By the end, he is, the steroids, your hair starts to go, your teeth start to go, your skin gets broken out and porous, and the muscles look like he's just lost his beauty. And it is so hard to see. You just want to hug him and say, honey, 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 honey. Stop it. Stop. You're beautiful. You don't need this. And I started following him on Instagram, and he's just he's just like a moose now. And it's so sad because it's just, he is a ghost of the child that he was, the pretty boy that he was. It's a fascinating documentary.
I had a moment today because, I'm getting older. We all are getting older. I do the scrub, this Dr. Lancer scrub, and then I put this Good Genes by Sunday Riley thing on, and I'm sort of red in the morning. And I look, and I don't have my glasses on, so that helps. That's another layer of filter. And I'm like, you look pretty, like, be happy today because you look, you're going to really be happy looking at yourself 2 years from now if like you're alive. So we'd all have, that's just the takeaway. It's like, just be happy with what
no matter how great you look, so often you just can't see it. I do that. Like, I saw a picture of myself in my 40s, and I was like, I looked really good, and you couldn't have told me in my 40s. I thought I was fat.
Well, that was black and white photography back then, though. So,
but it's sad because you just want to hug all these people and say, no, don't stop.
Hardest thing is like learn how to love yourself, right? I mean,
true.
That's the lesson. It's like you can't do anything for them, but you can love yourself, James, and I can love me.
Yeah.
Fenton, I don't know what Fenton can do. I really don't know. I don't know.
No, I hate looking at old pictures of myself because I'm like, I never thought I was good looking then, but I'd like do me then.
Exactly.
That's a waste of time. That's why you have to love yourself today.
Exactly.
In 10 years, are you going to look back on the 3 of us right now and say, gosh, we were so young and so cute?
All right, you watched some very depressing films this week, James.
That was the most depressing of them all.
That is streaming on Tubi or Amazon Prime. All right, number 2.
Number 2.
I just want to share quickly. I have 3 new Instagram obsessions. And no, it's nothing to do with naked men or twinks or anything like that.
I'll see you later.
One is marbling videos. Go to the at the Soft Asylum, all one word, the Soft Asylum. And this is when they
on Instagram.
They have a shallow pan of water and they pour ink on top and it floats. And then with like feathers and little pins, they drag through it and create these beautiful marbling patterns. And then they lay a piece of paper or a piece of fabric on top and pull it out. And that's how they make this incredible marbling thing.
That's cool.
Now, wow. I watched about 10 of them after you told us to watch that. And I must say, it's your moment of zen. It's so fascinating to watch them feather the patterns and stuff. It's a bit like tie-dye. And very often they get to a point where you're like, oh my God, that's fabulous. And then they keep going and they ruin it. And you're like, you keep like, if you would have stopped 2 minutes ago, it would have been perfect. And then they just make it, they zigged when they should have.
That is the artistic process, right? Do you have to have a real skill to do this, or could you get good at it yourself?
That's interesting. Do you?
They make it look very easy. But I guess that's true skill, is when it looks like, oh, I'm just doing this. But it made me want to kind of take up marbling. I kind of want to like get a pan of water, get some, like.
I can see you and Nolan. I can see Nolan doing this definitely.
I see this as Fenton's marbling era. Mm-hmm.
And in the same vein, but completely different, go to Cheyenne Marble, which is SHYAN Marble, which is basically quarrying. It is big trucks moving giant pieces of stone. And I watched this stuff for hours.
What's the appeal of that?
Listen, I went on and I did that one too, Fenton. And as I was in my second hour of watching quarrying, I was thinking, what in the hell is the appeal of this? Why is Fenton telling me to watch this?
Is it the sound? What turns you on about it?
It's the scale, and it's seeing like when they're like carving out the rock and they're like making it fall, you're like, is it going to break into a million pieces? Or when they're trying to put a huge rock into a dump truck, is the dump truck going to fall over?
Okay.
So it's fraught with tension, is what you're telling me, because all I saw was people dragging rocks around, and I was like, "Where's the third act?"
James, but you watched it. And the last one, very quickly, is ship_spotting_Greece. And this is an Instagram site from a maritime photographer and drone pilot. And it's all about freight shipping and containers.
And are one bizarre man.
I tell you, it is a respite from looking at thirsty bodies and thirsty videos. And the best thing about
it's a respite from drag queens is what it is.
The best thing about the ship spotting Greece is often on these giant freighters, they're in the middle of nowhere. So they'll throw like scraps of food into the ocean. And within seconds, enormous sharks and tuna fish are in a frenzy all around it. You think there's nothing in the water, I tell you. You're not gonna, you're not just gonna be worried about great white sharks. It's like massive fish that are really hungry, and just suddenly, the moment you drop anything in, they just.
I watched The Meg over the weekend, which I think was one of your favorite movies of 2016. One of them,
yes, very good, very good. All right, we're gonna take one more break, and when we come back, reveal the number one thing this week that made us go wow, which will include welcoming back the legendary, amazing, the one and only Theron Smothers. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after the break.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with Tom and James, and time to reintroduce our very special guest and reveal this week's number one thing that made us go wow. It's Theron Smothers.
Number one.
Hi.
Theron, we lost an icon this past week, an icon of television, the legendary Jerry Springer, whose show the Jerry Springer talk show ran for almost 5 6,000 episodes. And I feel that it has been decried as the end of civilization multiple times, but I don't believe it was. I think it was a masterpiece of television, darling. And you have a special story to tell, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was my first intern job working on Jerry Springer.
What did you have to do?
But it's kind of similar to what I do at World of Wonder now. The intern job was like booking drag queens club kids and, you know, the fun ones.
Everybody from arguing.
Full circle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The difference is you're paid now,
when was
so
this? When was this, Theron?
What, 93, 94? 94.
Oh,
I was
so
18.
you were going out at the same time. You had just hit New York.
Yeah, this is
Chicago.
before like I moved to New York, or before I think I even met you, James. I hadn't met you yet. So this was kind of like Chicago, right? So it was weird because I was a bartender in the Fox building down at Bennigan's, and Amy Scott was like a journalist for Fox News, came down looking for cool stories, and I told him about RuPaul. Hooked him up with the World of Wonder. Talked to Allison Pilot. Hooked him up with World of Wonder. They did a RuPaul news story. They came down like a week later, said, "Oh my God, it was like the biggest ratings we've had, you know, in history or in a long time or whatever." And as a thank you, they gave me an internship at NBC with Jerry Springer. Like that was like kind of like, oh, like thank you, and also meet our friends over here at NBC.
Well, now in the beginning of Jerry Springer, it wasn't quite as outrageous as things became. Like in the beginning, it was this period. Was this still baby daddy time? Was this still trans?
This was
people?
like meet men who dress as women time. This was like,
because there was a lot of
like,
that.
Joey Arias, you know, Van Barnes or TJ Mozzarella at the time, Bobby Trendy's first, you know.
But it was also I caught my husband in my dress type things.
No, it was more like, can you believe these men dressed as women? Time, right?
Okay.
This was before DNA testing. This is before DNA. This is when like talk shows were like still like, oh, you have, you know, you're
crazy
a man.
Nightlife people. You go out and party all night and sleep all day.
The Miss Continental.
There's a really crucial, important difference to make, because like on the one hand, everyone attacked him for like being trash TV, but when he had the gays on, the gays were kind of in on the joke and made it sort of fabulous and spectacular and sort of, well, I was going to say postmodern, which sounds so douchey, but it just became a different kind of show with the gays, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And he wasn't as judgmental. I didn't see, he wasn't as hard on the new kids, right? So
yeah, I was gonna ask, did you ever get to spend any time with him?
What was he like?
Him?
This was before I guess this was a time before like I thought that, you know, talk show hosts were celebrities. So I didn't look at Jerry as like a celebrity, right? Like I do now, like, you know, so it was more like the Chanel twins were celebrities, you know. TJ Mozzarella was a celebrity. Our club kids were the to me were the celebrity at the time. So I looked at the people they were having me help.
But did you ever interact with him? Did he seem nice? Did he talk to you? Did you not talk to him?
I wish I would have known then what I know now how to do it. But at the time I was still, I mean, I had just moved out of farmland, you know, out of the Colorado mountains. It was like, I didn't know how to interact just yet. Right. I was still cutting my teeth. So I wasn't as I wish I would have spent more time with him or got to know him.
Right.
But how smart are you, like some kind of heat-seeking missile, to come off the farm and go straight to the most important revolutionary television show on the air at the time, the Jerry Springer Show? I mean, that was the rock face of cultural transformation.
But I also want to say about Theron, though, is that right off the bat, when you moved to Chicago, you were hanging out with JoJo Baby, Greer Langton, Paul Monroe, Nan,
Reagan Comstock.
Yeah. So, I mean, you were heat-seeking. You found the most culturally important people at any given time. Did you just want to say something very quickly about JoJo? Do you remember JoJo Baby? We talked about him a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. I mean, I know he just passed, and you know, he was part of that Greer Langton, TJ Mozzarella Van Barnes group, and you know, Ilana was in that group too, who's, whatever, but they were the kids happening in Chicago at the time. They were really exciting. So when you go from farm to table to celebrity table, it was they were really exciting. Like, I mean, they were so great at the time. I mean, Greer, had so much history, as sort of like 18-year-old for me. And she was actually on Jerry Springer. She's on one of the panels and then we'd go sit in the audience too. So she's actually even on Jerry Springer because she was in that, like, people I was awed by, like Steve Lafreniere, like, introduced me to, like, the whole video portion of gay culture that led to the stars that were in Chicago at the time with the extension of Greer down to JoJo, so I love it. I have video of JoJo, Greer, and Van and Reagan Comstock all in one room together talking about,
We're gonna have to do an autobiography at some point of you.
Well, and James, you were saying he went straight from the farm to all the cool. I somehow came from the farm and moved out here and found Theron, who introduced me.
Let's make it all about Blake now.
I remember Blake.
Now I'm just saying Theron has introduced me to everyone. And
I was just saying to Blake the other day that the reason why, Blake, you're such a bitch is because Theron and I got a hold of you when you were so young, and then you went to Stephen Horbell after Theron and I, so that you had no.
I remember exactly what Blake said. He was like, "Will you take me out? I'm tired of being bored."
He was such a 6 months later, corn-fed boy. We destroyed him, Theron.
There's that famous picture of Blake and I hanging. What's that?
Those who don't know, Theron is our senior vice president of talent at World of Wonder. Is that correct?
Yes.
And he deals with we have 1,000 queens. Theron is in good stead with all of them. Theron is the most lovable person, the most sensitive, intuitive person when it comes to dealing with people in general, but talent especially. And while you are number one this week in the Wow Report, you're number one in our lives all the time. I love you, Theron.
Well, I'm continuing to do the great work of Jerry Springer.
Legacy work.
I hope I get a
little
PhD.
Jerry Springer to RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yeah, I would love to get a PhD in gay social studies, just like having been involved.
You have it, baby. You have it already. You don't need to study any
professor.
Well, and by PhD, he means pretty huge dick.
Yes, always. Which Jerry? Oh, never mind. Speaking of Jerry, no, just kidding. Just kidding. Okay. All right.
Thank you, guys. That's all we have time for this week on the Wow Report. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, James. Thank you, Blake. Thank you, Theron.
Yes.
You can watch previous episodes and this episode on our YouTube channel, Wow Presents. You can see all the stuff that we cut out because it was just too embarrassing. But until then, same time, same place next week. Until then, go out and do something that makes the world go
wow.